What's up, everybody? It's the Digital World Podcast. And boy, do I have some news for you guys. And I almost jumped out of my seat because this is something that not only George Gammon has talked about, but things you've been hearing from, years on end by different people about an digital money system. And everyone called it a conspiracy theory. And folks, whether you realize it or not, your money can be frozen and you'll have no access to it. Yes, even now. And you may, obviously we still have cash, right? Precious metals, but you realize that a lot of what you depend on is your credit card, or you just make your payments on your phone, right? At least that's the majority of what the population uses, because it's just so much easier to transact. And you go to a bank, they may be limited in how much dollar bills they give you. So you have to be very cognizant of what's happening, because this is a very, very slippery slope of what I'm about to show you. But before we get into that, listen to some of the propaganda that's being talked about. And unfortunately, some folks are believing this. And that's why I'm here to present information so that you guys are not deceived by whatever the mainstream media is telling you. Don't fall for that. And listen and weep as you hear these words.
Let's talk about the situation here at home. Families are feeling a hit from the highest inflation in 40 years right now, costing the average American family about $275 a month. What can Congress do right now to bring those costs down?
Well, let me just talk about the inflation thing, because people are saying, well, what we're spending is causing inflation. The fact that people have jobs always contributes to an increase in inflation, and that's a good thing. But inflation is not a good, we have to contain it.
Wages are not keeping up with prices.
That's right.
Let's talk about the situation here at home.
Did you hear that? Just in case you didn't catch that, let me just rewind for you a little bit and let your socks fall out of your foot. Listen to this.
Jobs always contributes to an increase in inflation, and that's a good thing.
Folks, right now I have tears falling out of my eyes. Oh my goodness, this is just awful. How can pure propaganda at its finest? Like I said, this next topic that I'm going to present to you is a very slippery slope, and you need to listen to this. Because, folks, the end game is very, very near. And I've been talking about a cyber pandemic for the longest time on this channel, since the inception of this channel, which has been almost a year now. And I think that this goes to show that nobody is an exemption to this, because what they're forcing on these groups will eventually come back to bite you and be used against you at some point, just like George Gammon says. Okay? And I agree with that. No matter, for those people, listen closely, for those people who are in support of what's happening now, just remember, whenever they're able to use it against everyone, they will. But it just so happens to be that it's just a small minority right now of people. Well, I wouldn't say small minority, but, because a lot of Canadians are standing up. But anyways, less talking, more watching. Here you go.
This is about following the money. This is about stopping the financing of these illegal blockades. We are today serving notice. If your truck is being used in these illegal blockades, your corporate accounts will be frozen. The insurance on your vehicle will be suspended. Send your semi-trailers home. The Canadian economy needs them to be doing legitimate work, not to be illegally making us all poorer.
Listen to that. They need the trucks to be doing legitimate work. Listen, let me replay that.
To be illegally making, not to be illegally, to be doing legitimate work, not to be illegally making us all poorer.
First of all, you can't do legitimate work if you're banning them from working because they haven't taken the medicine. Second of all, making us poor. What have the governments done the past 2 to 3 years, huh? And I'm not directing this at her. I'm asking a question. Because she could just be someone reading off a piece of paper. Yeah, she's the deputy prime minister and minister of finance, right? But she could be reading a piece of paper. And she knows maybe her job's at stake if she's goes and does the contrary. Whatever. Doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is, folks, that because we as a people in every country allowed for this to take place, now we're dealing with the repercussions of that. If we had nipped it in the butt and said no from the beginning, we would not be in the place we are now. But because of our consent, we are now confronted with this situation. Okay? And there's no easy decision. People are being placed between a rock and a hard place. And I understand that. But that's what happens when you, quote unquote, kick the can down the road, right? And you ignore a situation and say, oh, it's going to get better, or we'll deal with it later. You end up having to make harder decisions. And this is the reality of the situation. And now Trudeau has invoked the Emergencies Act. And anyone can be cut off from their account. And that's the scary part. And you see, Ontario government freezes access to millions of dollars donated to trucker convoy through Give, Send, Go. And I said, is this setting the precedent for the future? You bet your bottom dollar it is. Also, the Ontario police have begun handing out notices on Ambassador Bridge. This was as of February 12th. And it lists here telling you all of what is illegal and how you can be fined up to, I believe, $100,000 and up to a year in prison. That's right. For standing up against this tyranny, huh? So, I mean, I'm at a loss of words, especially because of this Emergencies Act. And that tells me that we have but little time. And I've told you guys 2022 is a very vital year, at least for me and my family. And I'm doing the best that I can and preparing little by little in what I hope could be, put me in the right direction. And what I expect soon is a cyber pandemic. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen. But you need to pay attention, because this right here, what's happening in Canada, is showing you what's coming in the near future. Even in the U.S., believe it or not, in land which stood for liberty, it's no longer that. Or else this would be something we'd be speaking out against. So, with that in mind, remember, you don't choose sides in this matter. Stay neutral, stay logical. Don't get into groups of fanaticism, which people go to the extremes. you have to be very grounded in your morals and your beliefs and your principles, right? And you have to be very, very neutral in your decision making. And because we're at a point in time where citizens are being declared domestic, uh, I won't say the word, but domestic TER, and you can finish, So they're now considered threats, and that's sad, very sad. But that's the state of the world right now. So if you like this content, you're new, like and subscribe to the channel for more information like this. This is the Digital World Podcast, and I'll see you in the next episode.